The steak knife hadn't even cooled on the plate when Jason detonated the moment that would quietly end his future. We were walking out of Santori's, that overpriced place Claire insisted we try just this once to celebrate her son's acceptance letter. Early admission, full honors program, champagne already picked out. A meal that cost more than my first car. I'd paid without blinking. Tip already calculated before dessert even hit the table. Jason had just finished bragging about some crypto thing he barely understood, and Claire laughed like it was the most brilliant TED Talk ever delivered over veal. As we hit the lobby, the waiter, a cheerful, balding guy with too much cologne, smiled and said the words that snapped something in me. "You have a great dad, young man. You're lucky." Jason didn't hesitate. Loud enough that the host turned, loud enough that 2 tables froze mid-conversation, he laughed and said, "He's not my dad. He's just mom's ex who tags along." And Claire didn't say a goddamn word. Just smiled that tight smile she wears when she's embarrassed, but still pretending it's fine. Like this was normal. Like I should laugh too, because hey, haha, Mark's just some beta wallet from the before years who never left. I didn't say anything. I looked at the waiter, nodded, pulled a 50 from my pocket, and slipped it into the guy's hand. "Thanks for the service," I said, and walked ahead of them out the door. The valet didn't even get a chance to ask. I was already walking to the car. Let me pause for a second and ask something. If you've gotten this far, especially if you're listening while driving, mowing your lawn, or doing whatever else guys do when pretending they're not hurting, just hit subscribe. It's free. It tells the team to keep digging deeper for these stories that say what a lot of us never get to say out loud. And 90% of you don't subscribe, which is wild, because it takes 1 second and it helps more than you think. Back to that night. The silence in the car wasn't angry. That would have been easier. It was sterile. Claire played with her phone. Jason scrolled TikTok or Reddit or whatever digital landfill lets him pretend he's an alpha with hustle. I drove. No music. Just the soft tick of the turn signal as I dropped them off. Jason said, "Thanks for dinner." Not to me. Just to the air. Like the food materialized from the ether. Claire kissed my cheek like you kiss your uncle at Thanksgiving. I watched them go inside. I sat in the car for a full 5 minutes, engine off, thinking about a fireplace poker I hadn't used in years. Thinking about the time I taught Jason how to use a drill, how I fixed his bike chain at 2 a.m., how I covered his braces even though his real dad couldn't contribute that month. And now I'm the ghost in their photo album. When I got home, I didn't pour a drink. I didn't punch a wall. I walked straight to the hallway closet, opened the hidden panel I'd built myself 15 years ago, and unlocked the fireproof safe. Inside were 3 things. A birth certificate from when I tried to adopt Jason, denied, because his real dad objected. A single cufflink from my father's funeral, and a manila folder labeled, "JR University Gift, Legacy Initiative." I sat down in my office chair, that old squeaky leather one she always told me to replace, and opened the folder. Endowment paperwork. 5 years. Departmental grant for technology and innovation. Anonymous donor. Disbursed in quarterly payments. First payment had already gone through. Second was scheduled for the following week. Jason didn't know that the state-of-the-art physics lab he toured last fall was funded by me. That the lab would have carried a name he'd never connect to me, initials only. That he'd been chosen as a symbolic first recipient scholar, not for his grades, but because I made a call. Quietly. Strategically. He didn't know, because I never told him. Because I thought it was better to let him earn his pride, even if it meant I stayed invisible. So, sitting there, with his smug little laugh still echoing in my skull, I took out my phone. Not to text Claire. Not to rage post on Facebook like some unhinged ex-husband with nothing left but bitterness. No, I called the university. Not admissions. Not student services. I called development. My contact there, Rosa, recognized my voice immediately. "Mr. Teller," she said warmly. "Is everything all right with the transfer?" I smiled. "I'd like to discuss pausing the next disbursement. Something's come up." Pause. "Of course. May I ask?" "I'll send a formal statement. Just flag the record with the phrase, 'gross public misrepresentation of family ties.' That should be enough context." Rosa hesitated, professional but clearly stunned. "Understood. I'll update the file immediately." "Thank you," I said. And I meant it. Because that was the moment the future started unraveling, not mine. His. The thing about betrayal is, it rarely arrives as a scream. It lands like dust, layer by layer, until the weight of it makes the floor creak when no one else hears it. After I hung up with Rosa, I didn't move for a while. Just sat there, hands still on the phone, breathing slow. The house was quiet. Claire had gone to bed, probably FaceTiming her sister or watching one of those murder shows she pretends to be terrified by, but never misses. Jason was likely half naked in front of his gaming rig, yelling at strangers through a headset, secure in the fantasy that he'd built all of this himself. My roof, my router, my bills. I finally stood, walked past the hallway mirror, and caught my own reflection, not angry, not broken, just still. There's a kind of calm men reach when the world confirms what they've always suspected, that they were only ever useful until the job was done. Then they're just background noise. In the study, I opened the cabinet under the bookshelf. Second shelf from the bottom. Tapped the third panel from the left, twice, then slide. A small click. Same design I used in my carpentry years for clients who wanted hidden options. Everyone thought I sold those tricks to CEOs and hobbyists. Funny thing is, the only safe I ever built for myself was this one. Nothing flashy. Just steel, fireproofed, triple bolted, with a code that hadn't changed since Claire's first birthday after we married. Inside, there wasn't much. I don't keep cash. Don't believe in stacking gold bars like some paranoid prepper. Just a few things that matter in ways paper can't measure. The cufflink from my dad's last suit. A thank you card from a former student I'd mentored back in my teaching days. And a thick folder, stamped once with the university's seal. Label, JR, University Gift, Legacy Initiative. I sat down again and opened it. Inside were copies of every communication with the university's development office. The proposal, the wire receipts, the naming rights agreement, the clause that allowed me, anonymously, to suggest the first honorary scholar from the incoming class. I'd left the section blank until a year ago, when Jason started chasing his big dreams with no clue who had quietly cleared the track in front of him. I had set up the whole thing as an endowment, designed to make it look like it came from a legacy donor. Anonymous, but prestigious. The faculty knew it was real money. They never bothered to ask who I was, just that it cleared with zero red tape and arrived ahead of schedule. I made sure to funnel the funds through a holding foundation tied to an old LLC I'd mothballed years ago. The initiative had been scheduled to fund everything from lab upgrades to student housing extensions for select scholars. Jason's name was never publicly listed, but he'd have been the face of the launch. The future of innovation, they'd called him during the prep meeting. I reread the agreement for the third time that night. Paragraph 7. Donor may elect to halt or rescind distribution without public disclosure, provided written notice is filed through proper development channels. So I wrote the letter. Short. Clinical. To whom it may concern. Effective immediately. Please initiate a full pause on all future disbursements under the JR University Legacy Initiative. File #TG 1247. Due to a personal matter involving misrepresentation of the donor relationship by the beneficiary and his immediate family, the donor requests the endowment be held under confidential review. Regards. GDR Partners, LLC, Managing Entity. I signed it digitally. Encrypted the PDF. Sent it straight to Rosa with a scheduled delivery time of 7:45 a.m. the following morning. Eastern Time. University business hours. Then I opened the donor management dashboard, the portal they gave me for managing tax paperwork, donations, adjustments. I clicked the Edit Donor Details tab, entered my access code, and selected Remove Name from Donor Record. A small pop-up asked, "Are you sure?" Yes. Then it asked me something interesting. A little checkbox I hadn't noticed before. Reassign endowment to secondary allocation? It was blank, but I remembered a school. A small charter institution I'd once visited during a foundation audit. Tucked out near the foothills. The students had to share calculators. The science teacher drove the school van after hours to take kids home. They had potential, but no money. No lobbyists. No one named Jason telling them they were the future while mocking the past that fed them. I didn't tick the box. Not yet. But I opened a new browser tab and started searching for the principal's contact info. Then I shut off the computer, put the folder back in the safe, and locked it. Claire walked past the study in her robe just as I was leaving. She looked surprised. "You're still up?" I smiled. "Just tying up some loose ends." She raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Walked into the kitchen, probably for wine or whatever self-care trend was in this week. She didn't ask what I was working on. She never did. The ringtone broke the morning like glass. Claire was barefoot, humming something forgettable while slicing strawberries into a bowl, the way she always did when pretending domesticity was a choice. She wore that old gray sweater she thought made her look cozy, not calculating. The one I'd bought her during our third year together, Before her Pilates instructor had a Porsche and Jason's braces became my responsibility. Her phone lit up. She glanced at it, paused. University office, blinked across the screen. Morning, she answered, cheerful, performative, putting on the voice she used with customer service reps and the HOA president, bright, entitled, ready to charm or destroy. This is Claire. She listened, and then her smile drained off her face like milk spilling down a drain. I'm sorry, what? I stayed in the hallway. Didn't interrupt. Just sipped my coffee. She turned off the stove burner with a clumsy twist. No, we weren't informed. An endowment review? That must be a mistake. He was told he had full. What do you mean rescinded? On what basis? Silence. A longer pause. Her hand, with its chipped mauve polish, trembled slightly as she adjusted the phone. I don't understand. What does that mean? Gross public misrepresentation of family ties. Another pause. Her face went pale. The kind of pale that makes you think of ambulances and divorce papers. The kind of pale that says a secret just got out, and there's no putting it back in the dark. She whispered, almost involuntarily, "Oh my God, what did you do?" At that exact moment, Jason stumbled into the kitchen, hoodie half-zipped, headphones still around his neck, the smell of his cologne arriving 5 seconds before he did. His hair was a mess. He looked every bit the spoiled adult child the world hadn't slapped yet. "What's going on?" he mumbled, voice groggy with sleep and entitlement. Claire didn't answer. She just handed him the phone without saying a word. I walked in then. Not hurried. Not theatrical. Just walked in with my coffee mug. World's best stepdad. Jason had given it to me 7 Christmases ago when Claire still cared about gestures and Jason still needed rides to soccer practice. I stopped next to him, looked at the mug in my hand, then looked at the one he was holding. Then I said, very casually, "Good luck with tuition." He blinked. What? I didn't repeat myself. Just walked past them and took my seat on the patio. Let the breeze do what it does. Carry voices when they get too loud. Carry silences when they sting more than shouting ever could. Jason stood there with the phone to his ear. I heard him say, "Wait, this is about me?" But I didn't even apply for funding. I thought, wasn't it automatic? Like merit-based or something. Claire sat down hard. Not gracefully. Not deliberately. Her knees gave out, and the chair caught her like a betrayal. She looked at me through the glass door. Not with anger. With something much worse. Recognition. Not just that I could have done this, but that I was the one holding everything up this whole time, and she had never once asked how. She used to love saying I wasn't a real father. That blood made family. That stepfathers were just supporting roles. Turns out, supporting roles write the checks. And sometimes, they stop. Jason kept asking the voice on the other end, "Can't we appeal this? There's got to be some kind of review process, right? My name's on the acceptance letter. I have the email. But I'd done my homework. There was no appeal process. Not for anonymous donor withdrawals. No press. No headlines. Just silence and funding gaps." Claire finally stood, walked into the hallway, and stared at the locked door to my office like it was a tomb. She didn't knock. She just stood there, breathing shallow, thinking about every time she dismissed my role in Jason's life as temporary, transitional, background. Now the background was gone, and all she had was foreground panic. I finished my coffee, looked out at the backyard I'd landscaped by hand, thought about how fast roots rot when you forget to water them. I didn't smile. I didn't feel joy, but I felt done. Claire has always been good at managing chaos, as long as she believed she was the smartest person in the room. She built her life like a Pinterest board, curated, filtered, double-checked for angles. She knew which brunch spots to name drop and which people to avoid in PDA meetings. She could charm a barista into giving her a free oat milk latte, while simultaneously firing off a scathing email to a customer service manager who dared to inconvenience her with a back-ordered throw pillow. But Monday afternoon, sitting alone in her Audi, the tan leather seats pressing into her like guilt, she discovered something. Real chaos doesn't send a notification. The call to me went straight to voicemail. Twice. No ringtone. No text reply. She left a message the second time, her voice dripping with this brittle tone she uses when she's trying to sound calm, but can't quite breathe. "Mark, please call me back. Right now. We need to talk about the thing with the university. There's clearly been a mistake. Please." She didn't even know what to call it. That's what unnerved her most. Next, she pulled into a Starbucks parking lot, yanked open her laptop, and fired off a frantic email to Rosa at the development office. Then another to the general giving inbox. Then one to the vice president of alumni relations. Subject lines like urgent clarification request and legacy initiative disbursement pause. Possible error? No responses. She refreshed her inbox 11 times in 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Jason was sitting on his bed upstairs, headphones on, typing away in some Discord server, laughing loudly into a mic. His latest Instagram post had a caption that read, "Scholarship plus dorm with a view equals zero stress. Can't wait to crush it this fall, flexed biceps books, #full ride, #blessed." The comments were predictable. Brew your set. Must be nice having a genius brain and no debt, fire, fire, fire. Claire saw it while scrolling in the car. Her thumb hovered over the post, unsure whether to scream or throw the phone into traffic. Instead, she opened her email app again. Still nothing. She drove straight to the house and went upstairs, knocking sharply on Jason's door. He answered mid-laugh, voice still high from whatever gaming banter he was in the middle of. "Yo, what's up?" "You need to delete that post," she snapped. "Why?" "Because the scholarship's not happening." He blinked. "What?" "No. They called about the endowment, not my scholarship. I earned that." Claire hesitated. "No, Jason. That wasn't merit-based. It was arranged." He squinted. "Arranged? You mean like you donated or something?" She looked at him like he was a child, which, ironically, he was. It was Mark. That name landed like a slap. Jason's face twisted. "Mark? No way. He's not even. He's just—" "Wait, seriously?" She nodded. Jason sat down slowly. "But, I mean, the dorm room, the lab access, the program director. He said I was a flagship scholar." Claire knelt down, leveled with him. "Mark set all that up. Quietly. Anonymously." Jason opened his mouth, then closed it, then muttered, "So he's really pulling it all? I don't know. I can't reach anyone. They won't reverse it unless the donor reinstates. And Mark, he's not picking up." Jason stared at the floor, hands on his knees. "Can't we just, I dunno, offer to pay part? Work something out?" Claire didn't answer. She tried. One last desperate move, a call to the university president's office. The receptionist was polite but firm. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The donor's terms were clear. Without reinstatement, the account is considered inactive. Details are confidential. We can't disclose further." Claire had tried to press. "I'm his wife. I'm afraid that doesn't override donor confidentiality." Click. She'd stared at the call log for a full minute after that. She wasn't used to hearing no. Not like that. Not with that icy finality. That night, Claire sat alone in the kitchen. Jason paced upstairs. The confidence was gone. No more laughing, no more cryptic flexes and Instagram captions. His phone buzzed repeatedly, and each time he looked more nervous. She stared at the oven clock like it might offer solutions. Jason came down eventually, holding his phone like it was a bomb. "Mom, did you know Mark funded the science wing?" Claire didn't answer. "Some guy just DM'd me a link to a Reddit thread. People are figuring it out. They're saying he was on the advisory board under an alias. That he's been donating to tech programs for over a decade. That he probably built the whole initiative around me." Still, Claire said nothing. Jason sat across from her, suddenly smaller than she'd ever seen him. "So what do we do now?" She finally spoke. Quiet. Flat. "We wait. And we don't post anything." Jason scoffed. He won't stay quiet forever. But the fear in his eyes said otherwise. Because Mark wasn't making noise. He was erasing them. One signature, one login, one donation at a time. She called it just dinner, like it wasn't a last-ditch campaign strategy wrapped in lasagna and candlelight. Like I couldn't see the desperation clinging to her like perfume she hadn't worn in years. She set the table for 2, not 3. Jason, apparently, had plans, which was her way of saying he was too embarrassed to face the man whose money had built the life he now watched collapse on social media, one quietly deleted post at a time. I'd seen the cleanup, tweets gone, bio edited, captions rewritten. Like a digital exorcism. I arrived precisely at 7. Not early, not late. She opened the door wearing a navy blouse I vaguely remembered buying her at some holiday outlet mall in Tahoe. The kind of thing she always said made her feel classic, even when she hated who she saw in the mirror. "Mark," she smiled. "Too wide. You look good. Good enough to fund another science wing." I replied dryly. Her smile twitched, but didn't falter. She stepped aside. "Come in." The table was set like a magazine spread. Cloth napkins. Polished silver. 2 wine glasses that hadn't seen daylight since our anniversary 5 years ago. It smelled like basil and manipulation. "Lasagna," she said. "You always liked it." "I always ate it," I corrected, pulling out the chair. We sat. The food was decent, if a bit overcooked. She talked. I listened. At first, it was light. Memories, updates, questions phrased like compliments. You still keeping up with woodworking? Jason still talks about the bookshelf you made him. You always did have a quiet strength, you know. I let her perform. Let her believe she was warming me up. Then she shifted tactics. I know Jason's words hurt. But he didn't mean it. He's just a kid. He's overwhelmed. Scared. I sipped my wine. He's 18. He's the age I was when I worked nights to get through school. That's not fair. No, I said. Fair would have been him stopping himself before laughing in a restaurant full of strangers. Claire sighed, reached across the table, her hand grazing the tablecloth like she was setting a trap. You can't just abandon him now. He's only 18. He needs this. I finally looked up. He needs this. Not a person. Not me. Just this. The access. The funding. The insulation from consequences. He was 18, I said slowly, when he decided I was nothing. The words didn't echo. They sank. Claire sat back in her chair. The shift in her posture was small, but irreversible. She knew I wasn't here to be swayed. She'd known it for a while, but she'd hoped. I set my fork down neatly beside the plate. You all taught him that, I said. With every time you called me the helper instead of his stepfather. Every time you let his father swoop in with a cheap gadget and 5 minutes of praise while I stayed up filing FAFSA paperwork and fixing the roof he punched holes in during a tantrum. Every time you let him talk over me, roll his eyes at me, treat me like a placeholder you forgot to erase from the script. Mark, she started, her voice cracking. No, I said, leaning forward. You want to fix this? Start by admitting you broke it. She didn't respond. Not immediately. Not for a long minute. Then, softly, like a confession, she said, I thought you'd always be there. I nodded. You weren't wrong. I stood, tucked in my chair. That's why this hurts. Claire looked up at me like she wanted to reach for something. Remorse, maybe, or the comfort of being right just one more time. But I didn't give her the chance. As I reached the door, she whispered, You know he's not strong enough to recover from this. I paused, hand on the knob. Then maybe next time, I said, Don't teach a boy to saw off the branch he's standing on. And I walked out. She didn't follow. The statement dropped on a Thursday morning like a stone through glass. It wasn't dramatic, not at first glance. No scandalous headline, no viral expose. Just a 4-paragraph notice posted to the university's donor relations portal and quietly circulated to key faculty and administrative staff. The JR Legacy Initiative, it read, had been suspended indefinitely due to a confidential donor-related review. All associated programs and funding allocations would undergo reevaluation over the next academic year. Internally, the translation was clearer. The money is gone, the cover story is crumbling, and no one's willing to say why on record. But Jason knew. And now, so did everyone else. By noon, the engineering cohorts group chat was on fire. A screenshot of the post was already making its rounds, and someone had paired it with an older promotional email from the admissions office listing Jason as one of the first prospective R scholars, complete with his blurry headshot and an embarrassingly confident quote. I'm ready to make an impact from day one. Except R no longer stood for anything. They'd scrubbed the initiative name by the end of the day. Officially, it had been rebranded under a generic title, First Year Innovation Track. One student posted a side-by-side comparison of the old and new program descriptions. Another chimed in. LMAO, someone pissed off the donor. Jason didn't comment, but he saw it. Claire saw it. And so did every friend, acquaintance, and LinkedIn connection who used to congratulate them on every minor life milestone. Gone were the likes, the flame emojis, the so proud of you comments. In their place, silence, the kind that clings. Even Jason's old roommate, Tyler, the kid who once offered to tattoo the program's name on his arm after they got accepted, texted him 3 words, Dude. What happened? Jason didn't answer. Claire did what she always did when the narrative slipped out of her hands. She tried to reframe it. She emailed the admissions office. She called the bursar. She tried a warm, slightly shaken voice with the registrar's assistant. We're just seeking some clarity. There must have been some administrative mix-up. No one could, or would, confirm anything. She tried Rosa again. Voicemail. Then, in what must have felt like a final act of surrender, she called me. For the first time in weeks, I picked up. There was no pause. No greeting. Mark, she said, her voice tight. You don't need to keep punishing him. This is enough. They're treating him like he forged his own acceptance letter. I let the silence stretch for a beat, then said, That's not my doing. He still has his spot. Yes, but without housing, without labs, Without the program, he's a name on a spreadsheet now. You stripped him of everything that made this special. No, I replied, calm even. He did that when he decided to laugh in my face and pretend I was just furniture. He's 18, she snapped. We've covered that. She exhaled. I could picture her pacing in the hallway, rubbing her forehead, the same way she used to when Jason failed a test and blamed the teacher. Look, she tried again. Just tell the university it was a misunderstanding. A mistake. Something you did in anger. I laughed softly. It wasn't a mistake, Claire. But this is your legacy too, she pressed. You built this. You can't walk away from that. I didn't walk away, I said. I just changed the name. She didn't get it. Not yet. But she would. Later that day, Jason posted a black square on his Instagram with a vague caption about starting over and learning who your real supporters are. His comments were off. Claire tried calling again that night. I let it ring. I'd said everything that needed saying. Now the fallout was speaking louder than I ever could. It started with a meme. A screenshot of Jason, laughing mid-sentence, from a friend's old story post. One where he'd clinked a wine glass and joked, "He's not my dad, just my mom's ex who tags along." Someone captioned it. Oops. Turns out he tagged along with your scholarship too. It spread like wildfire. First it hit private group chats among college-bound kids, then Reddit, then Twitter, then a subreddit called r/academic leaks, where someone claiming to be a university insider posted a breakdown of the suspended endowment and a list of clues leading to the donor's identity. That's when they found me. Not Mark, the quiet middle-aged guy who showed up to bake sales and repaired Jason's car brakes when his birth father flaked. No, they found my actual name, Marcus R. Dellinger, retired venture partner, strategic advisor, longtime private fund contributor to multiple academic institutions under shell LLCs and private charitable vehicles. One user even unearthed a press clipping from 8 years ago with a blurry photo of me at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a research lab at a different university. Wait, he built the damn science wing, someone posted, alongside the university's architectural renderings and a close-up of a donor plaque that once bore the name R. Legacy Trust. They circled the R. Jason's R. Within 12 hours, the top Reddit comment read, "Imagine laughing at the man funding your future." Couldn't be me. And it only got worse from there. Jason's last post, the black square with the vague caption, became a feeding ground. The comments he turned off didn't stop people from screenshotting and reposting. You. Tell me you fumbled an entire endowment without telling me. Bro, you had one job. Be respectful to the guy who paid for your dorm. It didn't take long for Claire's world to collapse next. Her friends, once quick to like her curated photos of charcuterie boards and weekend winery trips, went silent. Group chats dimmed. One even removed her. No explanation. Just gone. The kind of abandonment only people who trade favors and facades know how to execute. She tried to keep up appearances. Posted a photo of Jason at a cafe with the caption, "No matter what, I'm proud of my boy." It had 3 likes in 2 days. One was her sister. The other 2 were spam accounts. Then came the backlash from the university community. An anonymous op-ed in the campus paper skewered the administration for depending so heavily on anonymous donors, arguing that the entire initiative was founded on nepotistic secrecy. Another student fired back in a letter. This wasn't nepotism. It was sabotage from within his own family. Meanwhile, Jason barely left his room. Claire, now fully unraveling, finally cracked one night. I wasn't there, but I can imagine it clearly, based on the voicemail she left me at 11:47 p.m. Not crying. Furious. "I hope you're happy. Your little revenge fantasy? It worked. He's not eating. He won't talk to me. He's shut out everyone. And do you know what they're calling me now? The mother of the boy who blew $1 million future because he didn't know when to shut his mouth." I didn't reply, but I did forward the voicemail to my lawyer, just in case. The next day, according to someone who was there, Claire lost it. Jason had come downstairs for coffee. Hoodie on, eyes hollow, phone in hand. He mumbled something about the university sending another email, possibly still offering part-time enrollment without aid. She snapped. "Do you understand what you cost us?" she shouted, slamming the ceramic mug on the counter so hard it cracked. Jason looked up, confused, like he genuinely couldn't comprehend why the world was collapsing. "I thought he was just your ex," he said. Claire didn't scream after that. She didn't throw anything. She just stared at him, eyes red, mouth tight. Then she whispered, "He was your future." Jason didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Because she finally understood the truth I'd known for years. The most permanent damage is always self-inflicted. It arrived in a plain white envelope. No university crest, no embossed return address. No weight of prestige like the last one that came. Just a slim slit of paper slipped through the mail slot on a Wednesday morning. Jason found it on the floor by the door, wedged between a coupon flyer and an unpaid power bill Claire had forgotten to set to autopay. He didn't open it immediately. He stared at it for a long time like it might burst into flames or vanish if he looked hard enough. Then, finally, he walked to the kitchen table, slid his thumbnail under the flap, and peeled it open. 2 pages. One standard notice from the university. One personal note, and signed. The notice was short and sterile. Dear Mr. Rowan, we regret to inform you that due to the indefinite suspension of the JR Legacy Initiative and related scholarship disbursements, your original offer has been converted. You remain accepted into the program as a part-time student with conditional enrollment status, pending full tuition payment and academic reevaluation. Housing is not guaranteed. You may reapply for scholarship consideration during the next review cycle. Sincerely, Office of Undergraduate Affairs. Jason blinked. His lips moved as he reread the words. Converted sounded almost surgical, like a downgrade you get at a car rental office, not the destruction of your academic future. He unfolded the second page. Thinner paper, typed text, but different in tone. It read, Character matters. So does humility. Our benefactors may remain anonymous, but their expectations are not. You were given a gift built on the assumption of grace, not entitlement. Reapplicants are reviewed annually. Some things are earned twice. There was no signature, no logo, just that. Jason stared at it. For a long time. No yelling, no broken glass. Just the hollow sound of someone seeing, for the first time, how far the ground is when the safety net disappears. Claire walked in a few minutes later, hair messy from sleep, robe still tied in a loose knot. She poured herself coffee, not even looking up, until she saw the envelope. Saw the look on his face. What is it? She asked. He didn't answer, just handed her the second page. She read it, and for the first time in days, she didn't try to twist it. Didn't try to rationalize, or reframe, or call someone to scream into a headset. She just folded the paper once, then again, creased it sharply with her thumbnail, and set it down next to the toaster. Then she walked out of the kitchen, past the table, and up the stairs without a word. Jason stayed at the table, not scrolling, not texting, just staring. He was still there when the sun dipped below the tree line, sitting in that same chair, hands on the paper, eyes unfocused, like he was waiting for a reset button that wasn't coming. Upstairs, Claire's bedroom door stayed shut. No music, no calls, just silence. The kind that fills a house when everyone finally runs out of lies. The message came quietly, like everything else from Mark. No explosions, no grandstanding, just a cold click in Claire's inbox at 2:12 p.m. Subject line, for Jason, if you wish. The sender was Mark's attorney, a name Claire recognized from a trust document she'd once skimmed but never fully read. Back when things were simple. Back when the most complicated decision she faced was which ski resort to book for spring break. There was no preamble, no legal jargon, just a single line in the body of the email. Claire may forward this to Jason if she chooses. Attached was a PDF. She clicked it. 1 page. Typed. No salutation. No sign-off. Just words that cut cleaner than any courtroom ever could. To the boy I once tried to raise. Sometimes the men you mock are the ones holding your parachute. I've let go. It's your descent now. That was it. No threats. No I told you so. No rage. Just 6 sentences with all the oxygen of finality. Claire stared at the screen for a long time. Her hand hovered over the forward button. She didn't click it. Instead, she printed it. She walked upstairs, paused at Jason's door, half open, the familiar stench of energy drinks and lost opportunity leaking out, and placed the letter on his desk beside his unopened laptop and the now irrelevant university hoodie draped over the chair. Then she walked away. No knock. No explanation. Just a piece of paper and the weight of what used to be possible. Jason found it at midnight. He'd been scrolling Reddit again, this time with a burner account, watching threads speculate on his identity. He'd seen his face on a meme captioned, "When your ego costs you a future." The comments were brutal. One post had over 12,000 upvotes. Another called him the kid who tripped on a golden carpet and blamed the rug. He didn't argue, didn't reply. He was tired of fighting ghosts. So when he saw the page sitting there, folded once, clean and deliberate, he didn't need to ask where it came from. He unfolded it. Read it once. Then again. The sentence that hit hardest wasn't the parachute line. It was, I once tried to raise. Past tense. Jason sat down slowly. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. He just stared at the paper in silence, eyes unfocused, as if some part of him had finally recognized the shape of the hole he'd spent years pretending didn't exist. Down the hall, Claire's light was off. The whole house was still, blanketed in a silence neither of them knew how to speak through. There was no more plan, no comeback, no savior waiting in the wings. Just a boy with a letter, a future rerouted, and a past that had quietly severed the final thread. It was raining that morning, soft and steady, the kind of gray drizzle that makes rural roads feel like they're floating in their own world. The ceremony wasn't flashy. A folding chair affair under a canvas tent, the school logo hand-painted on a plywood sign near the entrance. No reporters, no ribbon cutting, just a few families, some faculty in worn blazers, and a girl in a thrifted blue dress that still somehow made her look like royalty. Her name was Danny, 17, valedictorian, daughter of a janitor who'd worked at the school for 23 years without ever taking a sick day. Her speech was short, nervous, but honest. She talked about grit, about losing her mother when she was 9, about watching her dad mop the same hallways where she got straight A's. She didn't cry, neither did her father, but they held hands the whole time. When the principal announced the first ever recipient of the newly established Legacy Reallocation Fund, there was a hush. It wasn't a scholarship that had ever existed publicly. There was no website, no pamphlets, just a quiet grant backed by someone no one there had ever met, until now. Mark stepped forward. Suit, but no tie. Gray hair neatly combed. Nothing flashy. No speech. He just shook Danny's hand, then her father's, and smiled as a faculty member took a few photos with a Nikon that had probably seen 5 graduations and a retirement party. Then he stepped aside. There was a plaque. Small, wooden, simple engraving. It read, Given in honor of forgotten fathers. That was all. No foundation name. No mention of universities, past or present. Just that line. 3 hours later, the photo hit LinkedIn. Someone from the school's administrative board uploaded it. A snapshot of Danny holding the plaque, smiling. Mark in the background just barely visible, half-turned, like he hadn't meant to be caught in frame. It didn't go viral. It wasn't meant to. But Claire saw it. She was scrolling late at night, the house dark except for the cold glow of her phone. Jason was upstairs, headphones on, his monitor lighting his room like a confession booth. When the photo loaded, she didn't flinch. She just stared, zoomed in, saw the corner of Mark's profile, recognized the curve of his jaw, the quiet posture, the way he never made moments about himself. Then she read the plaque. Twice. She didn't call him, didn't message, didn't show Jason. She simply saved the photo to her camera roll, sat back on the couch, and stared at the ceiling for a long time. There was no explosion, no closure, but she understood. He hadn't burned them down. He'd just turned off the power, left the house standing in the dark, cold and still, and walked away, knowing they'd never forget the warmth he used to provide.